My plan was after the prayer meeting to actually just go to the club. Like, we're just gonna do this. Let's see what the woman said. Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you guys about my testimony and how I came to God. If you have followed me for any length of time on Facebook or on Instagram, I constantly share snippets of my story on there, but I've never actually sat down in front of camera and give my entire story. So this is actually a first. Some 13 years ago, I gave my life to God for the very first time, and if I told you that this was an easy journey, I'd be lying. Listen, it was a lot. For 7 long years, I was in and out of relationship with God, and I would actually describe it as mostly out. I backslid a whole lot, but eventually Jesus came for me. He gripped me. He helped me to get my whole entire life together. At the age of 19, I found myself in a place where I was really rejected and lonely. My mom and I were not getting along. I was having boyfriend drama. Y'all know how that go. I was basically briefly unemployed, and I was just in a really sad place. I moved out of my mom's house because, you know, I wanted to be a woman. You know, I wanted to do my own thing, and mom was getting on me, and I was not about that life. But being in this depressed and lonely state, I decided to turn to partying as a means of coping, because when you party, you drink, you hang out, you kind of forget about your problems in those moments. Even though the moment you get up, you still have those same problems. In the moment of partying, you forget about it. And so that was kind of like my medicine. That was what I did just to get by, to get through the pain and just kind of numb those feelings. I was actually getting ready for a party. Me and my boyfriend had just broke up. It was on and popping. Like this is what I'm about to do. And a friend of mine approached me, and can I tell you, by the end of the night, I gave my life to Jesus. She came to me and she told me that she had attended this prophetic meeting, and there was this prophetic voice that spoke into her future and told her all about her life and what she was going through. Now, I had never heard about the prophetic. I didn't come from a church background. I didn't come from a saved family. I didn't come from a group of people that would have actually exposed me to that sort of thing. My plan was after the prayer meeting to actually just go to the club. Like, we're just gonna do this. Let's see what the woman says, and then after that, we about to continue. We are about to continue our party life, because ain't nothing stopping the show. In the Caribbean, we love to say, I was ready for the road.
I was ready for the road.
But that night the meeting was canceled. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is a sign that maybe God doesn't really have anything to say to me, or maybe this just isn't for me, you know. So I already decided in my heart that I'm not coming back anymore. I tried it. The meeting was closed down. It didn't work. The end. But instead, she said, you know what? Let's not go back home. I have a friend. Let's stop at this friend's house. This friend was actually a minister, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I figured we were just going to hang out at her friend's house. Instead, we ended up going inside. Of course, with him being on fire for Jesus, he told us about, you know, his relationship with God. And that night he asked me a question that changed my entire life. He said, what is stopping you from giving your life to God? Now, mind you, this question completely caught me off guard, because I had no answer. The truth was, I ain't got no mans. I ain't got no money. Me and my family are not actually getting along right now. So it's like, if I have nothing to lose. So why don't I just give my life to Christ? What is stopping me? That night, I walked out of that house having committed my life to Christ. And my entire life changed, not in that moment, but looking back, I can see that since that night, God never, ever, ever let me go. Now, I know that sounds like a happy ending, right? I gave my life to Christ, so everything was just supposed to be perfect. Everything was supposed to work out perfectly because I finally gave my life to Jesus, but that did not happen. Temptation came because, can I tell you, the devil is not going to let you walk out of hell with a smile. If you have been living a certain way, you better believe that he's going to send any and everything to try to get you back. I did not cut off some friendships that I should have. I didn't completely cut off the partying the way that I should have. Therefore, of course, I struggled in those areas for many, many years. So although I loved God and in my heart I wanted to do right, I was not equipping myself and feeding myself well enough spiritually in order to be able to withstand when temptation came. I was not reading my Bible. I wasn't praying. I wasn't keeping godly communications. I wasn't attending a good church home. And therefore, I struggled a lot in those first 7 years. So during those 7 years, I ended up going to college and then dropping out. I ended up living in with my boyfriend. I went back to cursing, partying, and ironically, it seemed as if it got worse. So the state I was in when I was 19 was one state. However, when I backslid, it's as if it was even harder to come back to God because every time I fell down, I felt guilty about it. Then I would try to change. But when I tried to change and it didn't work, I got discouraged. The very last time, I said, you know what, God? I am tired of this in and out thing. I am not going to be constantly coming in and out of relationship with you because it feels like I'm playing with you. And so you know what? I am done. But looking back, can I tell you that was probably the biggest mistake that I've ever made, because the depression came back, the loneliness came back, the rejection came back, everything that I would have left behind. Every time I gave into temptation and I fell down, those feelings would always come crashing back down. Even though I was doing all of this foolishness, part of me really, really still loved the Lord. I still longed for God, but I just didn't think that I could do it, y'all. I just did not think that I could actually be a Christian, and I mean like a serious Christian, one that really, really served and honored the Lord. But can I tell you that God came for me? He legit came for me. One morning I got up. I was living with my boyfriend at the time, but still, that morning I really woke up with a strong desire and urge to go to church. As soon as I went onto my social media, because y'all know when we get up, the first thing we tend to do is check our phones, right? So I got up and I saw on Facebook that an old friend of mine posted just on her timeline. She said, does anyone want to go to church today? And I thought, I just thought about going to church this morning. Maybe I should inbox her. And I inboxed her, and of course she invited me to the church that she was going to at that time. And I actually went. I was like, okay, let me check this church out. And I just kept going. I didn't go every Sunday, but I went maybe every other Sunday or every month or every whatever, whenever I felt like going. But I had somewhere now that I could go, and I really, really enjoyed the teaching. And I remember there was this particular sermon where the pastor said, if you are in a place right now in your relationship with God and you do not feel convicted anymore, you don't feel anything when you sin and when you do wrong, then you are in a dangerous place. But if you are in a place and you're still feeling conviction, your heart still feels heavy, you feel grieved when you make mistakes, then it means that God is still dealing with you. It means that the Holy Spirit is still pressing on your heart to change. But the moment that you stop feeling that, and you, my friend, are in a dangerous place, when he said those words, they cut through my heart like a knife, because that was exactly where I was. I was attending church, but I was still doing all the wrong things, and I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. Whereas when I was really, really saved and committed to Christ, whenever I would do something wrong, I felt the Holy Spirit's conviction. And I didn't understand the concept that I do now, is that the more that you obey the Holy Spirit, the more sensitive you become to him. And the more that you disobey the Holy Spirit, the more desensitized you become to him, right? Because you're not listening to him anymore. So you kind of don't even feel when he's speaking, or you don't feel his nudges anymore. At that moment, even though I did not give my life to Christ right away, my heart started to change, because I knew that I needed to get it right with God. I was scared, y'all. I was so scared to actually recommit my life to Christ, because one, I didn't know if it would work out, right? 2, that would mean that I would have to tell my friends that I would party with that I can't party anymore. I'd have to tell my boyfriend, I'm giving my life to Christ, so, I want to live holy and I want to live pure. And that was a difficult decision to make. But at that point, I got so serious about that commitment. I said, Lord, I want to give you my life. I want to give you my everything, even if it kills me. This time, I would rather die than to go back. Like, no matter what happens, I'm going to give it all to you. So I started to just read my Bible. I remember I would get up every morning. I would just sit down and just start to read my Bible. I didn't know where to read. I didn't know where to start. But I said, you know what? I'm going to start in Genesis. And I'm just going to read. And I'm going to pray every morning. I'm going to give some time to God because I really want to know how to do it right this time. And as I did, God would begin to speak to me. The Holy Spirit began to minister to me. And He began to peel back the layers in my life and to help me to get rid of those things that were holding me back. There were certain friendships I was not comfortable in anymore. There were certain situations I was not comfortable in anymore. There was certain music I just couldn't listen to. I just turned it off because I wanted to please God and I wanted to honor God. And I had played with fire for so long. I had fallen into temptation for so long that I just knew that I couldn't play with it. So if God said not to do something, you better believe that I was not doing that. Granted, I was not perfect all the time. Granted that I still made mistakes, but every time I made mistakes, I made a decision to get back up. And even to this day, I'm still not a perfect Christian. Like, we never arrive, right? It is a journey. We are constantly being perfected, even though we are not perfect. The beauty is that the Holy Spirit, He's so patient with us that He'll help us and guide us through each and every passing season of our lives. So giving my life to Christ now, I can say it is the best decision that I would have ever made. If you are in a place and you are backsliding and maybe you feel like you can't get this Christian walk right, that you're not pleasing God even when you try, even when you long, I understand. I've been there. I get it. Trust me when I tell you, I get it. But know that God, He can change that. And He can change you. But He needs your surrender. He needs you to say, no matter what, no matter the cost, no matter the situation, I'm going to keep getting back up and I'm going to surrender my life. You will be amazed at what God would do for you. You would be amazed to see the strides that you take, because Jeremiah 29 tells us, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you a good and an expected end. And God, He has major plans for you. There are things that He wants to do in your life, and He will unleash it and unlock it. But first, He needs your yes. First, He needs your obedience. First, He needs you to surrender and give it all to Him. I know that I may not be perfect and you may not be perfect, but even in our imperfection, so God is there to guide, to teach, to help, and to mold us for us to be more like Christ, to be more like His Son. There you go, guys. That's my testimony on how I gave my life to God. It was not an easy journey, but it was the best decision of my life. If you like this video, if you know that this could possibly bless someone, if you know someone that is struggling, don't forget to share this video with someone. Also, if you want more information about my story or just how to deepen your walk with God, check out my blog. I have tons and tons of articles at www.gilbertathompson.com. Until next time, be strong, be courageous, serve God wholeheartedly.